To take their seats, we'll get started.
Here, here.
So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody. This is a presentation inspired by the Open Space and Ecology Committee, specifically the Education Subcommittee, and sponsored by the City Council of Brisbane. And first I'd like to introduce our distinguished guests that I see in the audience. Our Mayor, Ray Miller, his distinguished wife, Anya Miller, past Mayor of Brisbane, Clark Conway, way in the back, also past Mayor of Brisbane, Terry O'Connell in the front row, hopefully future Mayor of Brisbane, and one of the special guests I'd like to introduce is my father, Jess Salmon. Stand up, Daddy, and wave at everybody. The last surviving original council member of the Brisbane City Council. So we're going to start off with, I'd also like to introduce Rich Borgello and Robert Reed from Recology, and they'll be giving a presentation midway through the evening or the afternoon. And I'm just so happy all of you are here. And so we're going to start off with a screening of No Deposit, No Return. This was a documentary, award-winning documentary by Cron TV, Channel 4 in 1965. I came across a videotape that I'd gotten from David Schooley through Mountain Watch about 5 years ago. And when Clark and I were discussing the Baylands and the tire dump, I said, "Oh, Clark, I have this video. It shows it." So I showed the video to Clark, and he brought the video to the city, and the city went and found the original film in the archives at San Francisco State and had a digitally remastered copy made, which can be seen on the city website. But we thought we'd show it on the big screen today. And then if you have questions afterwards, we'll try and answer them. I can see some experts in the audience that we'll perhaps call upon. And let it roll. Thanks.
The film you are about to see is one of 65 titles in the biography series, which KRON-TV, Channel 4, has leased for broadcast use in the San Francisco area. We felt the historical and educational value of these films should not be lost to those individuals or groups whose daily schedules would not permit them to witness the original broadcast. And, therefore, we secured the additional non-broadcast exhibition rights, which permits the station to make this presentation to you as a public service. We hope you enjoy the film. Comments upon the public service activities of KRON-TV are always appreciated.
Once upon a time, there was a fabled land where the people had learned the ultimate magic of making things and selling things and using things. They were skilled in the arts of consuming, masters in the sorcery of selling, experts in the skills of manufacturing. This brought wealth to the land, for the more the people used, the more they wanted. The more they wanted, the more things they made. They even made things for the singular purpose of throwing them away. Never before has so much been used by so many. This made the people very proud. They delighted in putting things in packages and containers and bottles, and in taking things out of packages and containers and bottles. And they talked about it a great deal, using magic phrases and strange incantations like market acceptance, consumer loyalty, conspicuous consumption, and planned obsolescence. For most of them, this was the good life. But the most curious thing about these people was Although they had developed to a high art the making of things, they knew hardly anything at all about getting rid of the things they made when they were through with it. They dumped them on the ground. They dumped them in the water. They dumped them in the air. Some were even dumped in space. More and more, the place where they lived became one big dump yard. This story is about these people and their dump yard. Assignment 4, the award-winning weekly Report to the West, produced in the community interest by the News and Documentary Department of KRON-TV. Tonight, observations on the problem of throwing something away.
No deposit, no return. Dump your garbage, let it burn. Paper, cardboard, plastic foil, boxes, bottles, rancid oil, Edsel grill, and burned out dry. Zip top can and tubeless tires, no deposit, no return. Dump your garbage, let it burn. Pungent mud flats sent the night through the smog, the pale moonlight shines on rusted cans of tin, glows on polyethylene. Detroit iron line the road, making progress by the load. Dump your garbage, let it burn. No deposit, no return.
So you have a really good shot of his seagull.
As philosopher Alan
They must be busy on the KRON website today. Cinco de Mayo.
Watts has observed, there are 4 basic philosophic
Preload a little bit more. There's Brenda. There's my house.
questions that mankind has always asked. Who started it? Are we going to make it? Where are we going to put it? And who is going to clean it up? The first 3 questions are more easily answered than the last because, for the most part, nobody really cleans up the mess we make. What we do is hire someone else to haul the mess off where we can't see it, or at least where most of us can't see it most of the time. In short, we don't really get rid of the things we throw away. We try to hide it. And we don't even hide them very well. Thus, we might be compared to migratory birds, fouling one nest, then moving on to another, only to foul that nest before we clean up the first. Chances are everything you now live with will eventually end up either on the ground or under the ground. Your car, the furniture you're sitting on, the paper you read today, the nice dinner, your records and receipts, the house you live in, the clothes you're wearing, the film you're watching right now on your television set, as well as the television set you're watching it on. Everything, sooner or later, goes to the same place. If you live or work in San Francisco, what you threw away yesterday is probably here.
Do you want to give us 1 minute or so to see if this thing can preload another?
So this is a little intermission while we buffer. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, it is. That's the Brisbane dump, and you can see the skyline of Brisbane in the background. San Francisco dumped their garbage in the Baylands area for probably about 105 years, and this is the last dump site out there on the Baylands, and then they moved to the Sierra Point Marina. I think it was about, maybe not 105, but I know from 1906, from the 1906 earthquake forward. You might know better than I do.
1906 maybe till about 1965.
Yeah, 1965 or, yeah. And then this site was closed and they moved to the Sierra Point Marina site. Is it ready? Oh, that'd be great. Yes. In this film, they do not talk about the unregulated medical waste that went into the dump or the military waste. It just is all waste. So we'll let Recology do their presentation while we buffer the film. And Rich, would you like to come up and introduce Robert, and maybe we could get a slightly different lighting scheme? we wouldn't want Rich to be in the dark.
Okay, so we're going a little bit backwards here. We're going from where we are today, then we're going to be looking at where we were. I just want to thank the committee for having us here today. I'm Rich Bergello from Recology, and joining me today is Robert Reed, our Public Relations Manager. Sunset Scavenger is my heritage, or Recology, as it is now, is my heritage. I'm very proud of my heritage. That's where I came from. It's my grandparents and my father were from Sunset Scavenger Company. But I'm even more proud of Recology and what we have achieved and where we're going in the future here. Our presentation today, Robert Reed will be going through the presentation, will be showcasing Recology's quest and our commitment towards zero waste. So I thank you for having us here today.
Hi, thanks everybody. My name is Robert. I've worked at Recology for about 20 years, and I live in Borough Heights. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes up the road. But I spend a lot of time down at the dump. We call it the dump, although it's really a transfer facility. A lot of materials are brought there every day and sorted and separated, and off they go into different places. Oh, sorry. There we are. Is that better? Sorry. I hope everybody could hear what I was saying. Anyway, I have a few slides here just to talk generally about what Recology is and what the new name is all about and kind of our philosophy. And then I have 3 little videos. And I guess we're now as a company, we're now in the video age, so we also have a couple of little videos I'd like to show you. And the whole point here is to try to ask, Rich asked me to try to give a good sense about who we are and our philosophy and what we're trying to do as a business. We're an employee-owned company, and we're based in San Francisco. We provide services in about 50 or 60 cities now, including some cities that have hired us in Oregon and Washington, and we do some smaller communities in California like Auburn and Vacaville and Vallejo and Marysville. But San Francisco is our home. San Francisco is the heart of the company, and it's over half of our business. Okay, can we turn the lights down just a bit? And then hopefully this will take us to the next one. Okay, so what is Recology. It's a new name. We hired a company to help us come up with a new name. Our name used to be, for our main office, our name used to be NorCal Waste Systems. And I didn't like it. I didn't think you could get it out of your mouth. The president and others said it was too geographic, you know. Anyway, they hired a firm to help us, and I wasn't part of that committee, but they looked at a lot of different names, and they got interested in words like reduce and reuse and recycle and renew, and you can see that Recology that's the kind of where it came from, is from those words and those concepts. You know, and it's interesting, you know, the film, the history you were showing, because when I was born in 1959 and when I was a kid in the early 60s, and I grew up in Minnesota, outside Minneapolis, and on a little lake called Lake Minnetonka, in a little city called Wayzata, and I remember that they would put 3 old cars. The lake would freeze in the winter, and they put 3 old cars on the lake, and then they had a pool, like a football pool, on what day the cars would fall through the ice. It was just, you know, and it kind of reminds me of the film, because that kind of, I guess, was the thinking way back then, and they didn't have words. They didn't talk much about things like this back then, but a lot of people are doing this today, and we do this every day at our company. This is really what we're into now. Sorry about that. You'll also notice they put a tagline here, Waste Zero. Now, we've all heard a lot about, recently, you know, the last few years, about zero waste. And there's a lot of communities are making zero waste goals. San Francisco has a zero waste goal by 2020. And there's different definitions. You know, some people think zero waste means sends nothing to the landfill. Some people say zero waste means recycling 95% of everything, and the only things that go to the landfill are little inert things, you know, like little small pieces of plastic. And I think as a country we'll work out this definition here in the short term. But the people that did our naming were thinking about that, and they wanted to put a little twist on it, and so they reversed the words, and they came up with Waste Zero. And they say what that means is use less of what we have. So we all know we're a big consumer, we still are a big consumer culture, and we all can be a little more attentive about our consumption and not buy as much, and only buy what we need. And I'm trying to instill this in my daughter, and we try to instill this in the 4,000 kids that tour the dump every year. I think it's a good point. And then the other thought on it is get more from what we use. So when we have something, let's get full use out of it. And I just think that, you know, we want to mention those things a little bit as kind of part of our mission, part of our philosophy, part of our thinking of who we are and what we're trying to tell people about our nature, really, as a company. Okay, we talked a little bit about this, where we're based, but I wanted to show you these numbers. We own and operate 20 facilities. Recology does, as a company. And I'm proud to tell you that 9 of them are recycling plants, and 8 of them are compost facilities, and 3 of them are landfills. So 17 out of the 20 are either recycling facilities or compost facilities. And it's been a while, but I did the percentage. I believe that's 85%. But you see where we're trying to go. I mean, this is our infrastructure. And Rich didn't want me to pick on the big garbage companies, the big national garbage companies, and I won't mention their names, but the biggest one, I can tell you this, the biggest one has about 260 active landfills nationally, and 100 recycling and composting facilities. So their ratio really is 3 landfills to every recycling facility, 3 to 1. And so what is the national recycling rate? It's 33%. Why is that? Well, a big piece of why that is because the infrastructure is set up for, it's still a business, it's a landfill business model. So I tell a lot of people, most of these big companies are running this way. They're still running towards the landfills. Recology is running this way. We're running towards zero waste. That's where we're trying to go. Okay, a couple more slides. So I wanted to show you this picture because this is just one example of how we're a little different and we're trying to get down to zero waste. If you go to, I feel so uncomfortable not being able to walk around. Oh well. Can I walk around?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. No, oh, good. Right up here. Okay, good.
Like a rock singer.
Oh dear. Okay, so I have to hold this one too. All right. All right. Yeah, multitasking. Thank you. Right into this thing. Okay, so if you go to Las Vegas or you go to Atlanta or you go to Chicago, you hardly see garbage. You put it in a garbage can, and you go off and do your thing, and a janitor comes along and empties a garbage can at some hour of the day, and it goes into a dumpster, and then probably in the early morning, a garbage truck comes by and stabs that dumpster, and into the truck it goes. So in a sense, it's just like whisked out of the city. You never see it. And we look at garbage. We look at it with what we call garbage man eyes. So what that means is when we look at it, we don't see garbage. We see plastic and we see cardboard and we see wood and we see metal. We really look at it with a scavenger's eyes or a recycler's eyes. And it's just different resources that are mixed together. And we're trying to get other people to look at garbage with garbage man eyes. So one of the things we did is put it on the side of our truck, and we use these graphics that we found in Europe, in Germany, I believe. And so when the truck goes by your house, it's as though you can see inside the truck. And then we also put a graphic up there to help people see that there's a relationship between that material and the environment. And we have different executions of this. It's expensive to do this. We don't do it on all our trucks. I think we have it on about 20 of the trucks that we run in San Francisco, and I'm sure we'll do more as we go forward. But it's just one example of how we're different, and we're trying to get people to pause for a moment and look at their garbage and just be more attentive to getting it in the right bin. We operate a very large recycling plant on Pier 96 in San Francisco, and it's for all your traditional recyclables that go in that blue bin that people have, and all the businesses and all the homes have in San Francisco. It's 200,000 square feet. It's on the bay. Pier 96 is on the east side of San Francisco. You can look across the bay from there to Oakland. It receives about 600 tons of material a day, and it's all mixed together, which makes it very easy for people to recycle because they can just put it in the one bin. And we sort it, believe it or not, into 16 different commodities, like white paper and cardboard and clear glass and green glass and different metal cans and different types of plastics. And last year we installed optical scanners. So as there's too much plastic in the waste stream, and there's too many different kinds of plastic. And as the stuff moves down the conveyor belt, these optical scanners identify the type, and then in some cases, they hit it with a little puff of air, and it goes off in this direction, and other ones tumble down, and the gravity takes them down in another direction. And so we're using laser optics to try to sort out all these plastics. Yeah, it's cool. It's expensive. It was $3 million. But it really works well. But the real solution is to not have so many different kinds of plastics and not have so much plastics. And the reality is we're going the other way. A lot of things in the grocery store now that used to be in glass are in plastic. Your ketchup and your mayonnaise and your mustards, and a lot of our food that we eat every day is packaged in plastic. And by the way, some of the chemicals they add to those plastics to make them flexible are not very healthy. So we ought to move away from that and talk more about that. But this is where recology's at. We're trying to look at best management practices on all of these things, and we've got we had sustainability managers for a long time now, and we have a zero waste team. We're really trying to be smart about this stuff. Okay, this is another plant we built in San Francisco here at the dump. It's to recycle construction debris. In this one, we sort out wood and metal and sheetrock and concrete and asphalt and all kinds, and also get a lot of cardboard, all kinds of stuff from construction projects and remodeling projects. And when the economy is going good, like it's starting to now, you get a lot of businesses moving into those skyscrapers in San Francisco, and so you get a lot of big remodeling projects on a lot of this material. And we built this plant. Most cities don't have one of these, but we built this, and we do a heck of a lot of recycling here. And by the way, we create jobs as we do this along the way. I really wish the president would talk more about this, because recycling creates jobs. In this plant here, we have about 45 workers. We run 2 shifts. If we go back to this one, we have 186 workers in this plant. These are good jobs. These guys make $20 an hour, $21 an hour. They get health care and medical benefits, and some of these people either had minimum wage jobs before or they didn't have jobs before. And the city asked us to hire from the neighborhoods right around where this plant is. So that's the Bayview. Okay. And then I wanted to show you this one. I've rattled on too long here, and I'm sorry, but this is one of our compost facilities, and this picture was in actually the Sierra Club magazine, and the reason it was is if you look in that bucket at the top, it's kind of reddish up there. That's because there's some redwood sawdust in there. We take all the kitchen scraps that people give us and restaurants give us, the peelings from the preparation of meals and the little plate scrapings, because we don't eat our broccoli or we leave French fries on the plate when we are out at a restaurant. In my opinion, that's some of the most important kind of garbage that there is, because that's where the nutrients are and that's where the carbon is. To me, it's much more important than cardboard. And we take all that and we compost it, and we operate really a very modern compost facility outside of Vacaville. And this is after they make the compost, they take it to a blending pad. So what you see, the little mountain there, that's the finished compost. It's just gorgeous. It's like coffee grounds. And then they blend in different soil amendments based on what the vineyards that take the material, what they need. So they hire an agronomist, a soil scientist, to take soil samples out of the floor of their vineyard. He or she takes those samples back to a lab, does an analysis. The analysis shows what they're deficient in, what they need to return to the soil to balance their soils. Because every time you harvest crops, you take nutrients away from the farm. You can't just take away, you have to put back. So the best way to put back is with compost. And we take that soils analysis and it becomes a recipe for us. And so we'll put so much redwood sawdust, so much gypsum, so much lime, other minerals, rice hulls. We mix them in and we make them a custom compost. We don't bag it. We just top load it in these open top trucks and we deliver it right to the vineyard. And the most exciting thing about this is that they will, we've been doing this now since we started in 1996. But they've tried different ways of doing the application. And the most exciting thing now is they drill holes in the floor of the vineyard. In the United States, vines grow vertically. They grow on posts and wires, up and down. And there's like an 8-foot hallway up there in Napa and Sonoma between the rows of vines. Previously unused agricultural space. And so what they do now is they drill holes in the floor of the vineyard, and they put a cover crop seed in those holes. Mustard, beans, sweet peas, or brass button. And then they cover those hallways with our compost. And these cover crops grow up. And what's really interesting about this is we're combining something very old, which is cover crops, with something very new, which is an urban compost collection program. So we've got a hybrid program here. And what does it do? It does what scientists call carbon fixation. It fixes carbon in the soil. Some of the carbon comes from the compost. The carbon we're able to preserve in the finished compost. Some of the carbon is the plants pull out of the atmosphere. And we work with an agricultural institute called the Rodell Institute in Pennsylvania, which is the oldest agricultural institute in the United States, and they've been doing side-by-side field trials for 9 years. And they've calculated that if every city did this, we could offset more than 20% of the nation's carbon emissions. Yeah, wow. It's part of the answer to our environmental challenges. I'm trying to get that story, in the press, and it's just, it's just a little too complicated. The media is writing about, the news of the day and the unfortunate limo accident that occurred, and and I'm trying like heck to get it in the paper, and eventually I will. And some of them I can send you some. Some of them I've had some success. Anyway, there's a tight shade of the compost. I just wanted you to see this because you can see how small the pieces are. So there's microbes in there, microorganisms that eat the compost, and they love it because it's made from food and from plants. And as it passes through their bodies, the pieces break down into smaller and smaller pieces, and eventually they get down small enough so they can be picked up by little hairs on the roots of the plants. Okay, running out of time. So here's some of the grapes. If you put this on your vineyard, those look like melons, but they're tomatoes. Yeah. If you put this on your farm for 3 years in a row, it works really great. So, the gardener saying is, in the first year it sleeps, in the second year it creeps, in the third year it leaps. That's leaping. Some of the most beautiful peaches grown in America. So we put it on orchards, and we put fruit orchards and almond orchards. And almond orchards use 9 different kinds of fungicides. Wouldn't it be much better if they used our compost? Here's where we bring some of it back to the city, and here we're using it on the Rose Garden in Golden Gate Park. And then the only other okay, and now we're going to show the videos, but I did want to say one other thing before I shut up. There's a new film. You've got this great film, No Deposit, No Return, but there's a new film, and it's kind of the global version and the modern version, and it's called Trash, Trashed, and the host is Jeremy Irons, the British actor, and they've just made it available on Amazon last week, and we wrote an article about it in our newsletter. It's on the back of the newsletter, so if you're interested in that.
Generator operation.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you're interested in that film, it's a tough film to watch, okay, because it shows, the truth. Yeah, it shows the bad stuff going on. He went all around the world. It even showed what happened with Agent Orange in Vietnam. It's a tough film to watch, but but the end is, there's hope in the end, okay? And so yeah, well, I put it on the internet, and I brought copies, so you can read about that. Worked real hard on the article, so you can read about it. Thank you, guys.
What does this glass of wine in Sonoma have to do with these food scraps in San Francisco? More than you think. Because here at the Splendid Door, one of San Francisco's top restaurants, food scraps like these don't go in the trash. They go in the compost bin, where they are picked up by one of Recology's 1,400 trucks and taken to the Solid Waste Transfer Center. From there, the load is taken to a compost field, where it's collected, sorted, and turned into nutrient-rich compost. Compost that Recology customer inventory. What does this glass of wine in Sonoma have to do with these food scraps in San Francisco? More than you think. Because here at the Splendid Door, one of San Francisco's top restaurants, food scraps like these don't go in the trash. They go in the compost bin, where they are picked up by one of Recology's 1,400 trucks and taken to the Solid Waste Transfer Center. From there, the load is taken to a compost field, where it's collected, sorted, and turned into nutrient-rich compost. Compost that Recology customer Inman Family Vineyards uses to help grow its grapes, that turn into wine that Inman sells to clients, like the Slanted Door. All proof that waste can be a whole lot more than trash. In a city like San Francisco with a large population, demanding terrain, and ever-changing traffic patterns, this process would be complicated for even one bin of compost. But what about the 3,000 tons of material Recology collects and routes through the city each day through its 20 distinct recycling programs? Material the company turns into 16 different commodities to be sold to customers around the world. Working with IBM business partner Key Info, Recology uses data to improve operational efficiency.
Recology had challenges in managing their fleet of trucks on a daily basis, and they had challenges in tracking the waste that was collected by all those trucks. How can they get the same amount of trash collected and to their recycling facilities efficiently in less time?
The field operations staff is really relying on the IT department to be able to provide route information, customer data as efficiently and as quickly as we can. The information that used to take weeks to generate can now be done literally in hours.
With the help of IBM and Key Info, we've been able to mine data that we just couldn't do before. We can identify more types of materials, where they are, the best ways to go get them and get our job done and get closer to zero waste.
In just 10 years, Recology has reduced the amount of trash San Francisco sends to the landfill by nearly 50%, getting closer to the city's goal of zero waste by 2020.
There's a lot of material that needs to be identified, separated. With the help of IBM and Key Info, we are attacking more of it, getting more of it recycled, and we're going to keep doing that until there's nothing left.
Zero is about a simple truth. If less is more, then zero is everything. Zero is about a city and its people taking a stand against greenhouse gases and climate change. A stand for our children and their future. Zero is about recycling and composting as much as humanly possible.
You might look at this pile and just see trash, but we see it differently. At Recology, we see opportunities to reduce the amount of waste we generate and ways to reuse and recycle materials. And you can too. So let's take a minute to think about the environment we all depend on and the responsibility we share in protecting it. When shopping, avoid products that come in excessive packaging or items produced from several different types of materials, which make them difficult to recycle. Practice reuse. Carry a reusable coffee mug and reusable water bottle. Source reduction and reuse are some of the most effective ways to help the environment. But when you do have waste, think about where you send it. Many items can be recycled. Clean paper and cardboard, hard plastics, and glass and metal all belong in the recycling bin. We sort these materials and give them a second life. Anything compostable should go in your compost bin. This includes food scraps, plants, and soiled paper products like used paper napkins. Recology composts these materials, creating a rich soil amendment that returns nutrients and minerals to local farms and vineyards. Household batteries must be recycled separately. Apart Apartment building owners and managers can contact Recology and request an orange battery recycling bucket for their building's lobby. Call us when it's full, and we'll pick it up. If you live in a single-family home, put your batteries in a clear, sealable plastic bag and leave it on top of your black bin. We'll recycle them. If you have larger, bulky items like old furniture or appliances, try RecycleMyJunk.com, a special pickup service provided by Recology. We'll schedule a collection for the date most convenient to you. We're able to recycle over 60% of the material collected through the RecycleMyJunk.com program. Recology also accepts household hazardous waste. If you have leftover paint, cleaning products, or gardening supplies that you no longer want, take them to our household hazardous waste facility at 501 Tunnel Avenue. Following these simple steps has reduced the landfill pile to almost nothing. Think of your landfill bin as a last resort. Real San Franciscans know, it's not about what we throw away, it's about what we save together. Do your part. We'll do ours. Recology. Waste zero. Learn more at recologysf.com.
Thank you very much. Now we'll return to our regular scheduled programming of The Way We Were. Ready? Okay. It's quite a contrast to see the future and then look back at the past, and I hope it gives you all a vision of where we've been and where we're going, and hope about where we're going, as opposed to where we've been and what's out there underneath the dirt. Ready? Yep.
The film you are about to see is one of 55 titles in the biography series, which KRON-TV Channel 4 has leased for broadcast use in the San Francisco area. We thought the historical and educational value of these films should not be lost to those individuals or groups whose daily schedules did not permit them to witness the original broadcast. And, therefore, we secured the additional non-broadcast exhibition rights, which permits the station to make this presentation to you as a public service. We hope you enjoy the film. Comments upon the public service activities of KRON-TV are always appreciated.
Now this time everybody sing along to the song. You should know the words by now. You want to skip forward? Yeah, we can.
Once upon a time,
Yes, because we had the problem that it was buffered in the small size, but it wasn't buffered in the large size.
Well, actually, you used up the computer's memory by watching all those other things.
Oh.
Mine too.
How do you want to proceed? We watch it first. It might be that the buffering if you're looking for the size.
No, it's not.
Can you help them with it, Rich?
Avoid changing things. Jump ahead to that.
Yeah. All right. Yes, exactly. Well, the other choice we have is to let this buffer in the large size and switch to the other computer.
That would work.
Would you like to switch to the other computer? Whatever you think is best.
Sure,
I think it's best that we switch to the other computer. So are we going to... You have an introduction to this, right? Yes.
So we're really doing everything quite backwards today, but I hope you all are learning a lot and enjoying it. The part we're going to show now is a rare interview that our mayor, Ray Miller, did with our 3 surviving council members in November 23rd, 1996, in celebration of our 35th anniversary as a city. And it's a very interesting discussion with Jess Salmon, my dad, Ernie Conway, Clark's dad, and Jim Red Williams. Ray Miller did a fabulous job interviewing them. The first thing they talk about in this video is the 1963 general plan, Brisbane's first. They also talk about a long, hard fight, and they refer to diking the dump. And in that case, they're actually referring to the Sierra Point landfill site, which later became the Sierra Point Marina. And then throughout, there's some discussion about our first city attorney. His name was Conrad Reich, and he became our city attorney in 1961. In 1968, in May, he was tapped by the state of California to become a Superior Court judge and left Brisbane. And unfortunately, 2 years later, in 1970, he died of a heart attack at a very early age of 46. So, and the last part of the tape talks a little bit about many of you have heard about how the top of San Bruno Mountain was going to be taken off by a conveyor belt, and they were going to build a city up there. Well, there's a discussion about that conveyor belt and how Brisbane cleverly prevented it with the help of Conrad Reich. And that pretty much sums it up. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what was on the tape, because it's not always clear what these guys are talking about, because they all know it so well. And for some of us who were kids then or maybe weren't here and didn't understand the context of it. So we'll go ahead and show that.
November 23rd, 1996, and we are about to interview the surviving 3 members of the original Brisbane City Council. We're about to have our 35th anniversary, and with me here this afternoon are Ernie Conway on my left, Jess Salmon in the middle, and Jim Red Williams.
There was legislation out of Sacramento that demanded every city have a general plan, and that's when we had to jump into it. And that was, I believe, in about 1962, and we had just become a city in 61. And I will never forget, we paid $25,000 to Williams, Cook, and Mosine for that general plan. And we had an awful lot of public hearings, and they had to make a lot of changes. See, they came in with a plan, period. But the people of Brisbane wasn't going to buy it. They were rather outspoken. So they offered that thing time and time again. We had meeting after meeting after meeting. And finally, we accepted the general plan. And if you look at it today, I think it would suffice today. Because in 1963, you will find that 105 acres out there that's been filled with garbage, and the marina, and those office buildings were in that 1963 general plan. Some people didn't like that aspect of it, but they're very happy with it today.
Oh, yeah. But because it was a long, hard fight to make sure it was put in right, otherwise those buildings wouldn't have been out there. It'd been like the one that's out here front now trying to put buildings in. It worked for 3 or 4 years trying to backfill and remove stuff that would have been the same way if we hadn't fought for what we believed in.
Well, that was the first dissension in council was when the garbage contract being due. That's when word started, the sparks flew. And I happened to be mayor at the time. Oh, God, that was tough. That was tough. They called me everything in the world. And Ernie and Eddie, they were on the opposite side of Jeff and I and Turner. And we had visions of Brisbane in the future. If we had gotten what we wanted, we would have had 250 acres on the other side of the highway.
Another 250.
Huh?
There's 220 acres out there now. There's another 250 northerly of that.
Yeah, 200.
BCDC chopped into us before that would have ever been filled, so it would have never been filled anyway.
Well, the state was getting antsy about filling the bay up. I was on the...
Well, then the council was confronted with the petition to put it on the ballot after the planning commission had rejected it, the garbage dump. The council turned around and 3-2 and put it on
ballot.
No, they didn't put it on the ballot. They passed it over the planning commission's head.
Oh, did we?
Right.
Yeah.
So then the people got a petition up and put it up to vote, and that was quite a time of Brisbane, because they had parades and every...
If I had to do over again, I would get on your side.
Every little campaign.
I would do it.
Thank you, Jim. I'm glad to hear that.
I would do it.
You know, you're a man.
I would. At that point, they didn't put the garbage issue up to vote. They put just salmon up to vote. I faced a recall. In 1964, they didn't get enough signatures. 1967, they managed to get enough signatures, and they attempted to recall me, but I beat that by 2-1. So that was the hassles. By the people didn't vote on the garbage until about 1969, when this was beginning to fill up out here, and we had already negotiated a contract and the diking was in process for the 120 acres that's out there now. When, in fact, the garbage was going out there. When the issue came up, they shut it down for a few days, and then the people voted on it. And the people actually voted not whether the garbage was going to be out there or not, but how much the garbage company was going to pay.
Payment.
And that's what the people voted on. And if you get the money high enough, they voted in favor of it.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, everybody makes big money. In those days, we didn't make big money. You know, what was 60,000 or 100,000? We thought it was a lot of money, but people didn't think that was a lot of money. To me, it was a lot of money.
You see, when we first started negotiating garbage, the county had been allowing Sunset Scavengers, or I should say sanitary landfill, to dump garbage out there for about $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And we started it became a city. We had annexed that property. So now we had to control it. So we started working on it. That was from our 63 annexation.
Could you give us the background of that annexation? How did that happen?
The state law stated that you did not have to have an election for annexation if there were less than 7 registered voters. There was one registered voter out there. His name was Dick Hobler. He owned an automotive servicing facility, new cars only, new car preparation. So our city manager that we had hired with experience, and our city attorney we had hired with experience, knew this, and this is the one secret that Brisbane managed to keep. We started that wheel turning and went through the whole process and had that whole thing completely annexed with a certificate in the mayor's hand before Daly City learned about it.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fit hit the sham.
Daly City was really...
they just flipped over that. But at any rate, that's how the annexation of that came about. We had the blessings of Ray Marks, who was the #1 honcho with Southern Pacific. We had the blessings of PG&E for the substation. Although we didn't get too greedy, we didn't take that section way down by the Daly City Fire Station. It wasn't very valuable, but we took all of the rest of it.
Oh, we don't want the servicing of Geneva Avenue.
And we left out the signal light. I didn't want the maintenance on that.
I would like to add something here. When we annexed that, we studied very thorough that we had to make sure our lines were drawn properly so that we could encompass Brisbane on 3 sides, be contiguous, to Crocker. that was our intent when we incorporated or annexed the Southern Pacific property, 10,000 acres. So we determined the lines by taking in PG&E and leaving certain sections out, so that we knew that if Daly City would object to it when they got a hold of it, that if we was surrounded three sides contiguous, that they would not be able to win in court. And this was the point. This is the point that we won on. And when we set those lines, we sat there and argued over them to make sure. And I definitely made sure that the lines were set that it would be contiguous, for the simple reason that if there was one block left out, it could have been detrimental to Brisbane. So therefore that they accepted it, and as soon as they annexed the Daly City, well, first the sanitation, Bayshore Sanitation District sued us, you know, but then Daly City come along and sued us, you know, for trying to get the lines.
We kept them from the bay.
Back because they wanted to be part of the bay, see.
That's right.
But due to the fact that there's only, like Gus said, there's only 2 people that lived out there, so they need a minimum of 11 people to put it on petition. And they didn't have to put it on petition, so therefore they got it in. And Bayshore would have had to put it on a petition in order to incorporate that property. And SP felt it was too long, and they had their partials to Brisbane too, so that's the reason we had an easier time of it, although we wound up in court over it.
Daly City. Well, due to that annexation, is why the Bayshore Sanitary District fired our city attorney. Remember, he was city attorney.
Right?
Yeah, he was city attorney for him too. They fired him right now.
Yeah.
Because we engineered.
Well, in conflict of interest.
Yeah.
That's why.
So who filed their suit against Brisbane? Him, huh?
Yeah. No, they had a sewer district.
Yeah, but who filed the suit on behalf of the Bayshore against Brisbane?
The Bayshore Sanitary District.
Yeah, did he do it for them?
Huh?
Did he do it for them?
No, they filed a suit after they fired him.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
No, he would have been hot water too that did that.
Yeah.
No, they fired him.
He would have been on both sides.
Yeah. No, they fired him.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
35 years before the garbage issue came up in Brisbane, they were doing the same thing, and 35 years before that, so you're talking about 105 years that they're still doing the same thing that they are, 105 years ago. Only now it's just a little bit cleaner. They call it sanitary and still garbage still.
Everybody,
we know about it, and we're still stacking it.
We all make it.
Brisbane was known as the garbage dump.
Yeah.
That gives us a bad name.
Well, Brisbane's image has changed in recent years.
Well, yes, but in 1950, we had that thing on it. And as a Lions Club member, we used to go down to Village Charrière and places like that. They put us in the back room. Brisbane, put them in the back. And that's the way we got treated. I think that's where I got my view of people. The heck with these people. We're on our own in there, see. And that's why we had a speaker. You won that time when we were down there. We had student speakers, Very good. But they treated us like poor cousins. We were from the garbage dump.
Well, I think one thing that came out of the garbage dump, though, that they have cleaned up their act nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Just on account of the little community that stood up and fought for itself. And I think that showed really what independents were. That's the way it should be. that the people lay back, the more they lay back, the more they're gonna get walked on. And I think Brisbane is, the community shows that they're one that will not be walked on.
Might tell us a little bit about the ordinance that said you can't convey bulk material across Bayshore Boulevard? Remember that?
Right, that's one reason that little annexation of the strip down there from the end of Brisbane city limits to the South San Francisco city limits is only a highway wide, which is probably 150 foot by 2,000 feet.
Well, chop the mountain down, and the top of the mountain is big in the bay.
Yeah,
remember?
I still got the plan.
Well, even South San Francisco at that time, they got irate as heck because we annexed that portion.
Oh, yeah.
That portion of the road. Because see, that's exactly where it was going over. The conveyor belt was going over, and we wouldn't have any control over it. But once we got the control over it, they didn't even come to us. They knew doggone well. They was pushed it to get the county to help them out on it, see, because all the dirt was coming from the top of the mountain. See, that was another big fight that was
that would have made Brisbane
citizens confronted. It would be ridiculous to cut the mountain off.
Well, what it amounted to, it was David Rockefeller and Chase Manhattan coupling up with Crocker Land Company to buy San Bruno Mountain. They wanted to chop 500 feet off of the top, flatten it out, and build 25,000 homes up there, build a new city for San Mateo County. And that previously had been the terminus of the Southern Crossing. Well, that was already dead. So they couldn't truck it down through South San Francisco. The only way they could get that filled down to the airport, is what they planned to do with it, was to conveyor belt it out to barges. And we approached Conrad Rice as the city council to see how we could stop this. So the only approach he could come up with was annexing the airspace above it, which was legal. And that's what we did. It was a unanimous vote. And incidentally, the conveyor belt was supposed to go right over Bayshore Boulevard in the middle of the curve, which would have put it right on the city limit line, going over Bayshore, and would come down to where that, between the two marinas out there, Sierra Point Marina and the one in South San Francisco,
right along
down there, they got into barges to be taken down to the airport. But I've got movies of the fog coming over San Bruno Mountain, and I asked them if they would guarantee me like something about $10 million, or $10 billion, I said, that you will not upset my weather pattern in Brisbane, and they could not guarantee it. So that died very quickly, because who the heck would want to live on top of San Bruno Mountain with 25,000 people? It'd take you an hour to get down the Bayshore Freeway. By the time you meander around, it's not the place for homes. It's and the best use it could have right now. Just open space.
Oh, that's beautiful. That mountain up there.
You ever been
But
there,
it's
Mike?
not touched in any way. No.
I drove all over the mountain one night looking for Bill Lawrence's son. He got lost up there.
I drove a Jeep up there one time.
I drove a little Falcon Ranchero.
Yeah.
All over.
Did you find him?
Huh?
Did you find him?
No, by the time I got back down, he was home, all scratched, bruised. He'd been sliding down the rocks. That was Chris Lawrence. Remember him?
Who?
Chris Lawrence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people used to drive up in the hill, turn the thing over, and old Vince has to get the brick out of there.
Oh, they pulled a lot of cars out of those ravines up there with helicopters.
Yeah.
People run them off the cliff, collect their insurance.
Yeah.
Jim, tell us about Western days.
Oh, Western days? There was the good old days.
So those are the good old days. Now you know what we did with our cars if we didn't have a lake.
November 23rd, 1996.
Oh.
And we are about to interview
So does anyone have any questions that were things that might not have been clear from a historical perspective or that you might not have understood on the tape, since it is sort of a segment? The actual whole interview was over an hour and a half. Ray was masterful in eliciting information from these three guys, and actually David Brown filmed it. And it's remarkable to sit and listen to the entire tape, but it would take all day. So did anyone have any questions before we, Wayne? This tape, I did have a CD. Well, actually, I had a VCR tape of it that sat on my shelf for years and years. And then I brought it back to the city and said, can you get me a DVD? And they made a DVD of it. So I did have that in DVD form. And the no deposit, no return, I'm sorry, I apologize. I have a DVD at home. I should have brought it, but I thought we had that taken care of. So I'm sorry about the buffering on that. No deposit, no return is available on Brisbane's website and has been for quite a while. And John, did you have a question? Do you want to? Pardon? Do you want to? What?
My question is, does anybody remember what law firm Casper Weinberger worked for?
John's question is, does anybody remember what law firm Casper Weinberger worked for? He was a lawyer that came in to help with the Sierra Point Marina, correct, John? And he was chosen. Ernie, I believe, contacted him, and I'm not exactly sure who he worked for, but he went on to become a Secretary of Defense. So we had some pretty powerful attorneys in Brisbane and in the early years. So shall we get on with it? Anybody? Oh, yes, Jerry. Jerry asked, did he hear correctly that one of the ways that we beat having the top of San Bruno Mountain taken off was by annexing the airspace over Bay Shore? Yes, that is true. Clark? Could you speak into the microphone, Clark?
Yeah, actually annex the road, and when you annex the road, when you own the road, you own the airspace. So that's what did.
And Dan Sorrentino wants to know, did we get a toll from the airplanes? No, they don't fly that low.
How high is our annex?
I don't know. We might want to look into that. All right. So yeah, that's one of the reasons we're not supposed to come over to Brisbane. Are we ready for the rest of no deposit, no return? Because okay, because Barbara.
To do this.
Ask that question again in the microphone.
I just wanted to ask how we got so lucky, how did we get so lucky as to have the people who had the foresight and the chutzpah to take us down this road?
Well, I'm not sure about how lucky, whether it was luck. There were 16 people who ran for that first city council, and the people of Brisbane elected the 5 that they felt were the best. And they did a good job electing those 5. And those 5 men worked very, very hard and very diligently and very much as a team to choose the best course to start us with. And we hired an experienced city manager, Lanier Brady, and we hired an experienced city attorney, Conrad Reich. And then we listened. They listened to them. But they also didn't all just go along with everything. Brisbane has always had an extremely independent spirit, and as you heard, there was conflicts. But in working through those conflicts, a better solution was reached for each step along the way for what we knew then. And that's what we do today. And so it's not always, everybody's on the same page. John, one more question? And then we'll get on with the rest of the film.
This is more in the nature of a statement. I believe the primary reason that Brisbane became a city was because the large corporations were threatening to use redevelopment to completely wipe out our town, flatten it, flatten every house in town. Along with the mountain going into the bay, it was also going to bury every single house in Brisbane. So that's how redevelopment was going to treat our little town. And, of course, we had to fight back. And I'm glad we did. So.
Yeah, John's absolutely right. Our fate has always been inextricably linked with this mountain that we live on. And that's why it's so important that we protect it, too. Okay, let's roll.
Documentary Department of KRON-TV. Tonight, observations on the problem of throwing something away.
No deposit, no return. Dump your garbage, let it burn. Paper, cardboard, plastic foil, boxes, bottles, rancid oil, Edsel grill, and burned out dryers, zip-top cans, and tubeless tires. No deposit, no return. Dump your garbage, let it burn. Pungent mud flats scent the night, through the smog the pale moonlight shines on rusted cans of tin, glows on polyethylene. Detroit iron, line the road, making progress by the load. Dump your garbage, let it burn. No deposit, no return.
As philosopher Alan Watts has observed, there are 4 basic philosophic questions that mankind has always asked. Who started it? Are we going to make it? Where are we going to put it? And who is going to clean it up? The first 3 questions are more easily answered than the last because, for the most part, nobody really cleans up the mess we make. What we do is hire someone else to haul the mess off where we can't see it, or at least where most of us can't see it most of the time. In short, we don't really get rid of the things we throw away. We try to hide them. And we don't even hide them very well. Thus, we might be compared to migratory birds, fouling one nest, then moving on to another, only to foul that nest before we clean up the first. Chances are, everything you now live with will eventually end up either on the ground or under the ground. Your car, the furniture you're sitting on, the paper you read today, tonight's dinner, your records and receipts, the house you live in, the clothes you're wearing, the film you're watching right now on your television set, as well as the television set you're watching it on. Everything, sooner or later, goes to the same place. If you live or work in San Francisco, what you threw away yesterday is probably here today. This is in the town of Brisbane, and here garbage is big business and serious business. San Francisco's scavenger companies pay Brisbane $30,000 a year for the privilege of dumping the city's garbage on Brisbane's front yard. Garbage dumpers are the community's biggest taxpayers, and in return, they have for years dumped San Francisco's slop in the lagoon at Brisbane's doorstep. The technique of hiding the vast fields of garbage is a simple one. Spread it out and cover it up. The material used to cover up the garbage is called sanitary fill. Sanitary fill is the official euphemism for dirt, and you get dirt by tearing down a mountain. The yearly garbage bill for San Francisco is $500,000, a lot cheaper, according to those in the garbage business, than the $25 million they figure it would cost to build an incinerator operation. Besides, when a mountain is leveled, the site can be used for building, and the garbage-filled lagoon can also be turned into profitable building sites, and all that real estate can be taxed. But the people of Brisbane, or at least a large number of them, were not at all happy about the prospect of letting San Francisco continue to dump its garbage at their front door. Last summer, anti-garbage forces mustered some 500 signatures on a petition to stop the dumping, and the Brisbane City Council put the question on a September ballot. Garbage had become such a hot item that it was even the basis of a recall movement against the mayor of the town, Jeff Salmon.
My concern is the community and the bay. It's getting farther and farther from us, and I have a fear that if we can't fill it with garbage, that it will eventually be filled with clean dirt. That is fine. But clean dirt may come from the top of our San Bruno Mountain, and this I am opposed to.
So the way things stand now, you would rather see this filled with garbage than to take the chances of the future.
Very true. Garbage will produce a revenue. The revenue produced from garbage is comparable to 30 cents on the city tax rate. The dirt being removed from our mountains will produce nothing for us except industrial land. Industrial land we're going to get either way.
If petitions and ballots settle to some extent where garbage will not be dumped, there seems no solution in sight for where it will be dumped. During the next 35 years, San Francisco's private waste disposal firms will need 1,800 acres for dumping. They now have less than 100, and there's no reasonably priced land available. The problem is of staggering proportions, and so is the amount of garbage that's collected. Every person in the Bay Area throws out 4.5 pounds a day, and that's 10,000 tons of garbage every day of the year. We'll throw away enough in the lifetime of most people now living to bury San Francisco 6 feet deep in garbage. Or if we dumped it into the water along with other fills, we could almost obliterate San Francisco Bay. Sometimes it seems that we're well on our way to doing just that. Anyone driving the principal highway approach to San Francisco needs nothing more than an unfortunate prevailing wind to know why Candlestick Cove has been nicknamed Candlestink Cove. And this is only the most familiar, not the most obnoxious dump in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are 31 others, sometimes called refuse disposal sites or sanitary landfills. None is arose by any other name. Reports Harold Gilliam in the San Francisco Chronicle, dirt is spread over the refuse to cover it up, theoretically. Water pollution officials continually have to warn the garbage dumpers about fouling the waters by inadequate coverage. The cities of San Mateo County have been the worst offenders. Daly City, on the ocean side of the peninsula, has dumped sanitary spill refuse along the tops of sea cliffs where it is spilled down to shore areas below. There the waves continually undermine the mountain of garbage and transport it along the shore, strewing litter even on San Francisco beaches miles away. Gilliam concludes, it is incredible that this medieval behavior is still tolerated in American society. But there it is. There it is indeed. And here it is. And here it is. The broken, the corroded, the decayed. All the things we don't want anymore, but just can't seem to get rid of.
Last year's nylons, last night's news, rusted out cup, a burned out fuse, dented hubcap, apple core, that old necktie Grandpa wore, magazine from 1903. They're right here for all to see. Dump your garbage, let it burn, no deposit, no return.
This strange tribal rite occurs once a year, and no one knows exactly why. On the 31st day of December, people who work in tall buildings throw all the waste paper they can lay hands on out their windows. The only other time they do this is when there is a parade for a visiting folk hero, on which occasion they throw the paper out at him. Some anthropologist of the distant future may relate it all to what Lewis Mumford calls the metropolitan form of the White Plague, a ravaging flood of paper. In his book, The Culture of Cities, Mumford writes, as the day's routine proceeds, the pile of paper mounts higher. The trash baskets are filled and emptied and filled again. The ticker tape exudes its quotations of stocks and its reports of news. The students in the schools and universities fill their notebooks, digest and disgorge the contents of books. The scholar with his degrees and publications, the actress with her newspaper clippings, and the financier with his shares and voting proxies measure their power and importance on the amount of paper they can command. No wonder the anarchists once invented the grim phrase, incinerate the documents. That would ruin this whole world quicker than universal flood and earthquake. The results of incineration, not only of the mountains of paper by which we live, but of all manner of things we try to throw away, is already ruining much of our environment. This result is classified by scientists as air contaminants caused by buried foreign chemical substances introduced into the atmosphere by combustion. The layman boils that mouthful down to a single word, smog. But no matter how you say it, it's airborne garbage, more of the stuff we keep making and keep trying to get rid of. Every day, building incinerators pump almost 2,000 tons of it into the air San Franciscans breathe. Open burning in smoldering dumps adds more, some 50 to 4,000 tons a day, depending on how many dumps are on fire at one time. And this is only the beginning of the story written in our smog-filled sky. Private industry is responsible for about 20% of airborne garbage fallout, dumping carbon monoxide, nitrogen, sulfur, and other waste into the air and ultimately into our eyes and chest. The very act of going somewhere pours more pollutants into the atmosphere. And laboratory tests prove that the driver of the car is no more immune to exhaust fumes than is the pedestrian who stands on the street corner and gets it blown in his face. Thus, the same internal combustion engine that keeps blisters off your feet might put spots on your lungs. Lung cancer is one possibility. Asthma, valley fever, and a variety of other chest disorders and chronic respiratory illnesses are among the growing selection of complaints available to the citizen living under smoggy skies. It's an interesting comment on our life and times that the health hazard of cigarette smoking has persuaded millions of smokers to cut down, cut out, or switch to pipe and cigars. But the health hazard of air pollution, which may be just as potent, has caused only a little stir in most communities. Smoking at least harms only those who voluntarily engage in it. Contaminated air hits everyone, from infants to octogenarians. But the problem is so vague, so widespread, so impersonal that it doesn't touch any emotional chord in most of us. Thus, people who would never dump their garbage
This is actually the next episode, which isn't on our program today. However, if you're really interested, we can put it on the website, and you can watch it there. We really were only focused today on the garbage part of what we make and not the air part of what we make. Yeah. Sorry, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I'm not, what's this? Oh, this is part 2. Kara on TV did an amazing job documenting the garbage in the Brisbane dump. And now I hope all of you have a better idea of what lies beneath out there on the Baylands. And when we go forward with our next phase of dealing with this garbage, because we do have to deal with it, and we have the draft EIR coming out about the Baylands, and now all of you are more aware of what's under there. And also, I think that there's a lot of hope with what the future holds with what Recology presented. I think that was amazing. And we are working towards zero waste. It'll be a while, but I think about it so much, and I hope all of you do too. And I just wanted to ask, was there any more questions before we skip to snacks? One more thing I just wanted to say about, oh yeah, Wayne?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing part of that interview. I think it's as a treasure trove of historical facts about the essential building blocks of Brisbane. And it would be wonderful to be able to share that. I would love to have an opportunity just to view it. And I'm sure lots of other people would too. This oral history is, a popular concept. And there's a lot of people still alive in Brisbane that could share some things. My grandma used to own the 23 Club. My parents were married there. So I know some of the early history, and I know there's lots of other people too. Maybe we could, on a grassroots level, continue to do this.
I was married there too.
Wow. I've got a photo of my parents' wedding party in there, a great big one, everybody in tuxes and stuff like that. But I want to say thank you so much to Jess and the other spirits. That were and are the building blocks of Brisbane as we know it. I mean, it's wonderful to share all this stuff. Thanks so much. And also, I want to say kudos to the Recology group. I mean, their way of thinking and approaching, we see the worst, and now we see the best. I think we're going in a wonderful direction. We can be an example for the whole world.
I agree. Hey. We really are an example for the whole world. Dan, Dan Sorrentino, you had a microphone? Yeah. Use the microphone, please.
Oh, I don't need a microphone.
Yes, you do. You're being recorded on TV.
Okay. Over 2 years ago, Barbara Bell, Dan Carter, Sue Cochran, and Faye Conway started a program in Brisbane to take bottles and cans that are CRV and recycle them and get money for the school districts. We're now donating $10,000 a year for the Brisbane schools. And we get it by collecting your recyclable CRVs at the hardware store. We have a trailer there in the back, and we fill it up every week. We have a couple of volunteers that come and sort it, and then we take it to various places to get money, and the school district gets $10,000 a year. So we need more of your bottles and cans, only the CRV value. Thank you very much.
Nancy? Wait for the microphone so other people.
I was amazed that Recology works with so many communities. So then I was just sort of interested, when did our relationship with Blue Line start, and why aren't we with Recology, and when did that all involve? I mean, when did that, is there any history to that?
Mr. Mayor, may I call on you to answer that question? Because I don't know. Do you want to give him the microphone real quick? And then we'll wrap it up and have refreshments.
Sorry, Ray, you're the mayor. You're the spokesperson for the city. No. I really can't answer that as far as the relationship with Blue Line. It's South San Francisco Scavengers, who we've had a long running contract with them, which that contract is actually up next year, 2014, and we're currently looking at either extending or looking at a different avenue. That's currently what we're doing. So, does that answer your question? Okay.
If anybody wants to know more, come to your city council meetings. They always love an audience. And question here? A live audience, right here. Hold it right up close, like a rock singer.
So I'm Ron Fornese. I'm Chief Operations Officer with South San Francisco Scavenger Company. And I came out tonight. I saw this documentary quite some time ago. But like I told Rich and I have known each other for years and years. We're all going to the same place. Recology, South San Francisco Scavenger Company, we're all heading to zero waste. By law, by the right thing to do, things like that. We're in the process right now of building a $6 million anaerobic digestion facility that will take your organic material that you can mix with your yard waste in your green cart. So your organic material is all your food waste. All the stuff comes off your plates, and Recology takes it and composts it. We're going to take that and create compressed natural gas that's going to fuel our trucks. And once we go through that process, the residual will then go to compost. So we're doing an additional step to create the natural gas. That's going to come online, we're hoping, early 2014, mid-2014. We already have the project sited. We've got financing. It's just a matter of building it right now. But anyway, we're all going to the same place, just at different paces.
Just as a point of clarification, not to slight our own South San Francisco Scavengers. I invited Recology because of their history as Sunset Scavengers, as displayed in the film, and that was why, just to tie the kind of the circle together. It didn't come out quite that way because of the structure of the technology that we use today, but I really...
We didn't put on that carbon counter, they did.
And Barbara would like to say a word.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. As a member of the Open Space and Ecology Committee, your presence here is what we live for. This is why we do all of this, and so I want to say thank you for being here. Another thing I want to say is this film was 1965, and I just want to say it's taken us 50 years to turn around. And so if there's one thing that I can ask the citizens of Brisbane in terms of the knowledge, but also to take away, is think about instituting your own zero waste program at home. What South San Francisco Scavenger and Recology doing is great, it's necessary, but you don't have to wait for them. We can all do these as citizens right now today. Thank you very much, and I think we're ready to eat, unless anybody else has anything to say. Okay.
Snacks are in the lobby. Bill Detmer made the cake for us today, and Sean Sweeney, a member of the Open Space and Ecology Committee, has made the little Tostitos for us. So there'll be more coming out, so just hang out, have some sodas, enjoy yourself.